Okay, I'd like to call to order the regular meeting of the Waxhaw Board of Commissioners for November 21st, 2016. If you would, please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing for a brief moment of silence. Thank you. Okay, as far as the agenda, I understand we have one minor change. Mayor Pro Tem Hunt?
Yes, sir. I'd like to move item D2 under recognitions in front of public comments.
Okay, so we are moving item D2 up in front of public comments. There's no other changes to the agenda. I'll take a motion to adopt the agenda. Wait a minute.
I believe you are going to remove from the consent agenda the street resolution, which is item C. Yes,
So
C3.
you would like it removed?
Yes.
Okay, so we'll also remove C3 from the consent agenda, and that'll come back before us at another time.
Yes, we have some tweaks to the language we'd like to put
Okay.
in. Thank you.
So we're moving D2 up. Prior to public comments, we've eliminated C3. Any other changes? Take a motion to adopt the agenda.
So moved.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, before we get to D2, just want to clarify something. There has been a lot of calls and texts and posts into the town about the movement of this meeting to Monday as sudden and deceptive. This time frame was established last December when we put together our meeting schedule, just for everybody's sake. It's very common practice in the town of Waxhaw. We do the second and fourth Tuesday, but when the fourth Tuesday falls in Thanksgiving week, we traditionally hold it on the Monday. But there was no movement of this meeting whatsoever at all. So I just wanted to clear that up for everybody. So, recognition of Lieutenant Burton Zill by Chief Ice.
Lieutenant Zeal's been with the town for 15 years. Was it this month? August. 15 years. Been a tremendous asset to us. I can't ask for a better guy that can work alongside me. Anything I ask of him, he does so, and does so with a good attitude. And I hope he's here 15 more. So, Lieutenant Zeal, I'd like to present you with this plaque, 15 years of service. From the town of Waxhaw.
Okay, on to public comments. We have a list of 7 people. Per our rules of procedure, each speaker will be limited to 3 minutes. Public comments will end by 6:55, or roughly 21 minutes. This is not a public hearing. This is an opportunity for people to share what they want to share on any topic in a time period of 3 minutes, and you will hear from Melody Schuler when your 3 minutes are up, and we would ask you to wrap at that point. First up, Bonnie Rasenko, 2501 Providence Road South.
Like he said, my name is Bonnie Rasenko, and I live at 2501 Providence Road South. I am here once again asking you to please do the right thing concerning the rezoning of the 3 acres from residential to C3, which goes against your own future land use. This zoning will strip away our privacy, well-being, and devalue our home. No one wants to buy a home looking at a big box building and its parking lot. Please note, I don't know if you know this, but about 4 years ago, this same 3 acres was put before the BOC for a vote to change it from residential to OIS zoning. It was turned down 4-1 because it was too close to our property line and would take away our privacy. My question to you is, what is different now? It's the same 3 acres with the same issues of privacy. The only difference I find is it was requested by a homeowner then, and now it's requested by a developer. Not a good message to send to our citizens. Not okay for a homeowner, but definitely okay for a developer. It was stated at the last meeting by Mr. Francis's representatives that he was talking with Steve and I. Yes, he did. And he asked us to get an appraisal that he might want to purchase or think about buying our home. This was months ago. We did, at the tune of a hefty sum. But when he saw the fair market value, his only remark was, too high. No sale. He then notified us that there will be no changes to the plat or the renderings that he submitted in August. The big box stays as is. He said we would only be looking at a portion of the big box, but mostly at the parking lot. Just think about that. A parking lot with cars constantly back and forth, in and out, headlights flashing in the evening or beaming in our own backyard, which is 55 feet from their parking lot. What about the probability of someone walking 55 feet on our property and gawking in our backyard as I'm settling with our family, or even in the windows of our bedrooms, which are all along that side of 55 feet? I know from Mr. Francis what he has promised and what he has promised him when the zoning is approved. And I'm taking this from Mr. Francis. He helped pays for the traffic light at Gray Bryan. He gives you a quarter of his property for the right-hand lane onto Gray Byram. He gives right away to Mr. Lewis, who in turn will request annexation before building the housing development known as Waterford of Providence, plus the 400 inexpensive homes that the development of Lewis will put up, which will then bring more tax dollars in when it's annexed. The town will foot the bill to drain his pond, which will cost the taxpayer a hefty sum and help get the rezoning done from CU3 to C3. Can you imagine how many cars will be generated with Mr. Francis's development, not to mention Mr. Lewis's development of an additional 400-plus homes? We do not have the roads to sustain such mass exodus in the morning or when they return.
3 minutes.
One traffic light will not hack it. I considered this, and it has been mentioned that this could be contract zoning, annexing 10 acres, then changing your own ordinance to accommodate higher density, then rezoning residential so it can be included in the requested C3 zoning, so it can accommodate a big box structure. I just want you to know, do the right thing. You are here for us citizens. Please do your job.
Thank you. Steve Rosinko?
Good evening, Mayor, Board of Commissioners. I'll make this as brief as I can, knowing there's a lot of people signed up and we got a time restraint. I was constantly asked if I was going to address y'all tonight, and it's difficult because I have an opinion that this is a done deal and we're just spinning our wheels. Why do I say that? I talked to Mr. Francis more than once. I know he's been down showing, working deals about making the turn lane down by Gray Byram, draining his pond, putting in a red light. But the other end of it is, he came and Bonnie had just told you, he made an offer, we got an appraisal, he walked away. He called me this morning, well, he met with me Thursday, and said he would go with his developers, he would look at what he could do for our concerns. He called me this morning, said, there's nothing I'm gonna do, I'm gonna leave it like it is. We ain't gonna change anything. I said, wow, okay, so now here we are, we're looking at a big box. Mention of not getting the approval was kind of disappointing for us, because we were kind of leaning towards the fact that he was going to have some kind of agreement with us and make some amends. All it is, to me, sure looks like a done deal, with only the final nod is from y'all's head tonight. Excuse me. With your nod, you get a turn lane, you get a pond drained, you get a red light, you straighten out his road, you get a tax revenue and further development off the side of Great Byram. He has also mentioned that if he didn't get this rezoning, he would landlock Mr. Lewis. That sure is a threat to Mr. Lewis, and I'm sure it's probably working. You can't straighten out Great Byram without him. So if you agree to this, then the citizens, you all get that, then the citizens get the disapproval. We get more congestion, more traffic jams, more density, and to me, this whole situation doesn't lend itself to reasonableness or consistency. Thank you.
Thank you. Lisa Brooks, 2900
Maryville Way.
Berryville Way.
Sorry.
Sorry, couldn't read it.
No, you were good. As the mayor said, my name is Lisa Brooks, and I do live in the Inverness on Providence subdivision with many of these wonderful people standing here behind me. I'm extremely fortunate, very lucky. I am a proud resident of Waxhaw, nearly about a year ago, and my home actually backs up to the land that is in consideration, so it's actually pretty much connected to my property line. My husband and I, like many here, many of you, all of you, have worked very hard to purchase our home. We've been through a lot to get here. To quote the Godfather, I know that this is not personal, it's business. I'm a businesswoman myself, and I understand that things must progress. However, I am wholeheartedly and very quickly asking the board to please deny the petition submitted by David Francis. Thank you all. Happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you. Catherine Lee.
Good evening. I'm Catherine Lee from 309 Summerlid Way. I close on my house tomorrow. I came here tonight to say a few things about these rezonings. I've worked in DC with the federal government and the military for years before coming here. I understand that governing is a hard job. You constantly have to choose between what the people need, what the people want, and what the people will tolerate, and no matter what you pick, someone is disappointed. I understand that. But tonight, I think you're all very lucky, because you have the most rare moment in government where you get to do what is right and popular at the same time. You get to choose the future for Waxhaw. Are we going to be on the direction towards urban sprawl, low-rent apartments, overbuilt commercialism, or are we going to be a city of families, kids playing in the yards, green spaces, and safe streets and good schools? Do we want to be urban sprawl, or do we want to be one of the most sought-after small towns in this country if we play our cards right? I'm here because you get to choose between making one man happy, Mr. Francis, and selling out all of the families that live in all of the neighborhoods up and down Providence Road, or doing what's right and what makes all of the families in this area happy. You can choose to sell this land out, rezone it, sell these families out for unnecessary and unwanted development that Providence Road cannot handle, that the schools cannot handle, that our overtaxed police force cannot handle, that our emergency center cannot handle, for more commercial zones that we don't need when there is land and commercial space 2 minutes down the road at Cureton Town Center that is still empty, when there is land further down the street, closer to here, that is still empty. Or you can choose the right thing and stand by the families of Waxhaw. You can stand by us and show that you care about us, about what is best for the families of this community. And if you stand by us, I guarantee you these good people will stand by you when the tough decisions come, when you have to do something like raise taxes or pass bonds. But you get that moment right now if you're willing and brave enough to take it. You can make one man unhappy, and you can make this entire community happy doing what is right, if you will let Waxhaw be Waxhaw.
Thank you. Steve Martin.
Good evening, my name is Steve Martin, and I'll be living at 2905 Maryville Lane.
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners, for allowing us to have this opportunity to have our voices heard. I'm requesting that the board deny the second and third petitions submitted by Mr. Francis. So accepting the text amendment to increase the multifamily density from 8 to 16 units per acre not only affects the property adjacent to Inverness Providence, but it also affects 3 additional properties along Gray Byram, all of which are owned coincidentally by Mr. Francis. There's no current requirement that these areas are notified of a text amendment change, but I feel it's in the best interest of Waxhaw to be transparent and to allow these adjacent communities to also have their voices heard of what this change would have to them. The multifamily density comparison table that was provided is not a valid comparison to Waxhaw based on the size of the city. So I've created a new table that has the populations of these size, and you can tell that these cities are much larger than Waxhaw. I then created another table that looks at the towns that are of comparable size and are of similar location to us. And as you can see, we're already higher than most of those cities at 8. So my question is, why would we need a higher density? Mr. Francis's team is suggesting that the town wants and needs all of these apartments, but I would challenge this statement. First, the residential rental demand is tempered in Waxhaw. We're not a large facility for huge job markets or major highway thoroughfares. Second, the Cotton Flats apartments are approved and going to be built downtown. We've got 70 new apartments that are coming. Why don't we wait and see if the town can actually handle those 70 before we allow 300 new apartments to be built? Lastly, I would ask that a traffic impact analysis be performed to assess what the impact would be of all these additional cars on a 2-lane highway that's not scheduled to be widened for another 10 years. I understand the goal of diversity is to have more range of different housing types, but the RM1 code already allows for small single-family homes and townhomes, which would be more applicable and more usable for Waxhaw than high apartment complexes. The request to rezone the property adjacent to Inverness has 3 main issues. The first is having a C3 zone property adjacent to an R3 property. First, the community doesn't want this. We want an easy transition down 16 from residential into commercial. But it's also that the zoning code for C3 doesn't allow this. It states that it should be sufficiently separated from residential zoning. This is either through transitional zoning or through appropriate buffering. So if there's no transitional zoning being requested and there's a request to remove the conditional zoning, then how do we as a community or as a board ensure that the zoning code isn't violated? As we currently have 66 acres of parks and we need 155 and this is only growing, we need more parks. We also need more buffering. So why not do something that benefits everyone instead of just what benefits the developer? So my suggestion is that we build a park on the property that is adjacent to Inverness and Providence and have that transition down. So park to townhomes to commercial. Second, we have too many commercial properties that haven't been fully developed yet. Several down 16 from Carrington Square, and Prescott Village. We need to be patient and expand our commercial base in these approved areas first to prevent or minimize gaps between developments. And lastly, we have to ask, what is the impact of removing the conditional use designation? With conditional use districts, all conditions must be mutually agreed upon by both the board and the developer to ensure that the developer is proceeding in a manner that's consistent with the vision of the town. Removing this conditional use designation without a strict UDO is like handing the keys of a classic sports car to a 16-year-old and hoping that they remember half of what you told them. So in closing, we all understand the challenges before you in deciding what's best for Waxhaw, but we also have the responsibility to take due diligence and ensure that what is passed is in everyone's best interest. The developer has one main goal, and that's to make the biggest profit he can. However, we can work together as a community and the developers so that we can all be proud of what Waxhaw looks like in the next 10 years. So I ask that you deny this petition request for the density change and for the rezoning. And again, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Chris Mothershed?
How you doing? I'm Chris Mothershed. Thanks for having me here today. First, to get it out of the way, I'm opposed to the apartments and the general urbanization of Waxhaw. I'm here for quality of life, not convenience. Second, in regards to the upcoming vote, whenever we complain about development, we're always told that the developer has rights, there's not much we can do, but now we have a chance to do something. And the citizens put the codes in place. The citizens are the ones who made this town plan. And now going around this town plan and changing these plans and codes is circumventing us. Don't circumvent us. The votes that you guys give tonight will tell us how much you care about our rights and what we said about this town. I haven't talked to one person who thinks high-density apartments are a great idea, let alone changing the density to even higher. Finally, I've emailed 5 members of this panel my opinion. And in the first line I said, please reply to me so I know you received this. I received 2 replies. So it either tells me that the emails on your website are wrong or people aren't listening. So please, let's listen to the people and let's do the right thing.
Thanks, Chris. Jim Gaten? Okay, thank you. Okay, moving to recognition, D1. Natalie?
So tonight, I am very, very pleased and honored, and I want to use the microphone so everybody can hear, to recognize Billy Sellers for 15 years of service to the town of Waxhaw. And I don't have enough time to tell you how great Billy is, but I wrote myself some notes to tell you some of the key attributes of Billy Sellers and what he does for our community. Billy has been with our Public Services Department up until about a year and a half ago, and at that time, he was hand-selected to become the first Parks and Facilities Supervisor for the town of Waxhaw in a budding Parks and Rec department. All of his great qualities are the reason that he was that person, and we knew that he was up to the challenge. In his time, he's been doing remarkable detail work in our parks. He managed to be an on-site supervisor for our awesome swinging suspension bridge that we have that a lot of people are enjoying. In addition to that, he's been putting together maintenance plans. He even found time to become a certified trail master. And he's also, if you may not know, our safety coordinator for the town, and he also is the ops person behind all of our town events. So he works a lot with our wonderful Public Services Department and interfaces with them on behalf of our citizens, always does it with the utmost of integrity, hard work, and I could go on and on. So I have even more notes than that. But the bottom line is Billy Sellers is the kind of employee you want working on your behalf. And I want to wholeheartedly say thank you for your service and congratulations on 15 great years. We'll keep you as long as you'll let us.
Lori, would you like to come forward and introduce one of Waxhaw's newest employees?
It's going to be really hard to top Billy Sellers. Billy is a great employee. Hopefully we have a new great employee to share with you. I would like to introduce, for those of you who have not met, Larry Pantori, here to my left. Larry started with us a little bit less than a month ago. He started with the town. He hails to Waxhaw from Auburn, New York, and he is a town resident. He, in Auburn, he worked for 23 years at his previous job. He worked for a welding company doing inside sales, but one of his passions was on the side job. He did home repairs for 20 years. And along with doing that, he also, for the last 6 or so years, has flipped houses. So he's got a lot in the home construction industry. As I stated, he started working with the town October the 24th. He's really been a great asset. I've ridden with him quite a bit. Here recently in the last week or so, he is out on his own. If anyone sees him around town, if you see us in the white or Larry in the white code enforcement truck, feel free to wave, feel free to hail us down. We actually get complaints that way where people are chasing the white truck, but be safe. Don't get put yourself in danger. There's other ways to report code violations. But so far since he's been here, we've had a good turnout. Like I said, a little bit less than a month. He has already spotted 15 junk cars, and he just told me today he saw more on the radar. So we are working effectively to beautify Waxhaw and just keep it aesthetically pleasing for all the board members and all the residents.
Larry, welcome. Okay, I would like to just go back to the consent agenda, and I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Chaplain, you didn't even catch that. Thank you. Okay. Wendy?
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners, Town Manager, and other very important people. I'd like to introduce Ms. Ani Avanyan. Did I say that right, Ani? She's here from Armenia as part of your program called American Swiss Student Exchange. And she's in Waxhaw for a year. She's away from home, which I think you would agree as a senior in high school, that takes a lot, a strong person. She's a senior at Cuthbertson, and she came in and shadowed me at Town Hall for a short period of time, and I learned during a conversation that she needs to do some presentations on her country, so I offered up. I thought this was a great forum for that. So, Ani?
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'm from Armenia. It's a small country, and I think not all of you have heard about Armenia, but maybe some of you have, and if you haven't, that's okay, because we are small and we are not very, we're not very famous, but I'm proud to be here. I'm proud to be Armenian, and I'm wearing national dress. And yeah, so I'm here for an experience for a year, and I like it so far. Yes, the people ask me that too much. Do you like it so far? Yes, I do. Here it's interesting. It's different, but it's good. I like it. So, this is our flag and our coat of arms. Okay, see, we are right here, the little part, and we can hardly see, but we used to have very big territory, but the history changed a lot, so we lost our territories, but we survived. And our country is located in the middle of Iran, Turkey, Georgia, and Azerbaijan, and and history says that they're like our enemies, and we survived, so that's kind of proud. This is the territory we used to have we call him Tigran Great. He was one of the greatest kings of Armenia, and this is a territory we used to have by BC 95. And Armenia is a very old country. There is evidence of civilization in Armenia in 4000 BC. But we have got some long history, but I won't tell you like all the things because it's very long. So, this is the sad part of our history. We had a genocide. The genocide was by Turkey people, and they killed almost 1.5 million people were killed. So, but the good thing that we didn't give up. We just we are here now, and we gained an independence in 1918, but the genocide was in 1915, so after 3 years we gained an independence, so we were pretty strong, so we survived that. It's Yerevan. Yerevan was built in 782 BC, but it grew. Yes, it changed a lot, and it is considered one of the most. No, it is considered the oldest city in the world, the oldest dated city in the world. But this is our capital city, and Armenia's the biggest city. It's pretty small city considered to other cities here, but it's our biggest one. Armenian people, we adopted Christianity in 301 BC, AD. I'm sorry, and we were the first in the first country who adopted Christianity as the state religion. And so in left we can see modern church, and in right we can see old church. There are a lot of old churches in Armenia because we are a pretty old country, and so this is like churches are one of the symbols of Armenia, Christian churches, and we have our language. This is our alphabet. Yeah, it seems hard, and it is hard. And so when I was doing presentation in my school, they asked me, "Do you use the same numbers?" Yes, we do. But sometimes after this alphabet was invented by Mesrop Mashtots in 405 AD because we were almost in the middle of separating in Armenia. But after the alphabet, we survived because the Iran we spoke Iran language, and after the alphabet we could write, we could talk in our language, so it gave us independence, and we survived. This seems hard, and we can see the last three. We know that the last three letters were added after Mesrop Mashtots. The last two were added. The last three were added by his students, but the third one from the last, it was considered a letter, but actually it's not. It's not considered a letter now because it's kind of like and. Because they were connected, like all the alphabet that Mesrop Mashtots invented, and that two other letters. This is Armenian national dance. We have a lot. We have a very deep culture, and I think that's because history. We have sad dances. We have happy dances. I think that's a sad one. This is Armenian duduk. It is a musical instrument, and it sounds really sad, but it is like one of the symbols of Armenia, and I'm like proud of that. And we can see in the bottom that the grapes and fruits, different fruits are different fruits are symbols of Armenia, especially apricot or grapes, because we have a lot of fruits and they are very tasteful, so you should all come visit Armenia. This is two biggest cities in Armenia. The top one is my city where I used to live, and the right one is Yerevan. And I think we can see Mount Ararat there. Mount Ararat is the highest point of our region, and it used to be in Armenian territory, and it got Armenian name on it. But now, after the battles with Turkey, after the genocide, it's now in Turkey territory. But everyone knows that it's Armenian symbol. Yeah, so that's Ararat, and we can see church here, old church here. So we have a lot of old churches. So yes, that's it. If you're interested in some things, you can ask me. And I got candies with our monuments. I think you enjoyed my presentation.
Yes, very much. What are you studying up at Cuthbertson?
I'm a senior there. It's just for a year, and this program is called Cultural Exchange Program. So I'm like experiencing here's culture, and one of my goals is to become a part of this culture. Like, not to change my views, but like to grow my views and to start to look at things differently, better.
Well, thank you for sharing your culture with us and everybody in the audience. So thank you again.
These are some candies, and yeah.
Warren will take all the candy.
Give it to the fox.
Thank you.
I hope you will enjoy.
We will. Thank you. Okay, next up, reports, commissioners' reports. Commissioner Warren?
I have nothing this evening.
Commissioner Stewart? Commissioner Fitzgerald?
I had the honor of having 3 of my children come home this past weekend. We had to have Thanksgiving yesterday because some had to go back home. And I just want to wish all of you in the crowd and everybody online happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you. Commissioner Burrow?
Yes, I know this is on everybody's mind, mine in particular. The UDO, I talked with the consultants today that are finishing it up, and they promised by December 16th we'd have our first draft, and we begin the process, and you all, whether you realize it or not, help that process, because right now they're sitting there in Spokane, Washington, and have been for months watching all of these meetings to see what the issues are and how our new code should be shaped. So I'm glad that they're watching. Thank you for participating. That's it.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Hunt?
Yes, sir. So last Monday, which was November the 14th, the Audit Committee, which is comprised of Commissioner Stewart and myself, met with our auditor to receive the first draft of our annual yearly audit. We met with the representative from the audit company, went over the audit with our town manager and our finance person with the town. Everything looked pretty decent. Right now, that audit is going to the Local Government Commission, or the LGC, for their approval. Once they get it and get the approval on it, it comes back to the town and then is presented to the full board and to the citizens in roughly January, towards the end of January. So that will be coming back also. Also, in the spirit of Commissioner Fitzgerald and the fact that we voted on the calendar back in December for this whole year, I'm proud to say that Thanksgiving will be on this Thursday here in Waxhaw. And I want to wish everybody a very happy Thanksgiving and safe travels if you do leave town and your travels back to Waxhaw. Thank you.
Just to be clear, we didn't vote on Thanksgiving, did we?
I think it was on the calendar for this Thursday. We were going to hold it on a Thursday this year.
Just wanted to be clear. All right, I just have a couple items before I turn it over to Warren. 2 things. Spent a half day last week in Raleigh with the League of Municipalities, 8 municipalities, and a couple of legislative assistants trying to get some semblance of order around annexation, de-annexation, donut hole, and the challenge it's creating across the state. To say it's complex, not only from a zoning, but from a land use and from a who can do what perspective is an oversimplification. And there is intent by the legislature to bring some action forward this year to try to get some semblance of order around it. And they were in the process of interviewing different towns on the topic. And it is a very complex issue. Our challenges are different than Marvin's, are different than Weddington's, are different than Monroe, are different from the East coast, certainly different from as you go up in the mountains, and it's impacting service delivery, and the like. Secondarily, I've been getting a lot of questions on where are we with the library, and I've talked with 2 of the 5 county commissioners over the weekend. They are talking about the process they're going to use tonight at their Board of Commissioners meeting. They have not set any policy direction per se. There has been direction discussed at the library board, but no real policy direction has been set. They plan to do some of that this evening. So as soon as we hear something, the assurance is that both on the library and South Piedmont, it's, while from a cost standpoint, it's appealing to merge the 2 into one building. From an economic development and from a use standpoint, they have 2 differing objectives as it goes forward. And so both of those bodies are going to have to weigh in, and then the County Board of Commissioners are going to have to weigh in as well. So that's on those 2 topics. And then I had fun last week doing the chicken dance with the first graders, passing out dictionaries to the third graders, and actually spending an hour with a third grade class as they completed their 6 weeks on the study of government. So had some fun with that. So Warren?
Okay. Mayor Maher, members of the board, Ms. Schuler, Mr. Spencer. Tonight's manager's report will revolve around growth in the Charlotte metro area, what we're seeing, what the numbers are, and the numbers come mostly from the U.S. Census Bureau, but also some numbers from the Charlotte Business Journal. The Charlotte metro area is ground zero for population growth and job growth in North Carolina, as well as the Raleigh area, and we're seeing that in Waxhaw. Back in 2010, the Census Bureau estimated that the Charlotte metro area would increase in size by 50% over the next 20 years. And I can tell you that the metro area is on pace to do that, if not more, and it's being driven by job creations. That's about 44,000 people a year moving to the Charlotte metro area and looking for a place to live. So with that, with the job growth in the Charlotte metro area, the Charlotte metro area, even through the Great Recession, has added on average 32 jobs per day over the last 10 years, and that's what's driving folks coming to this region. You hear, we've heard folks from Inverness saying they're getting ready to close on a house, been here less than a year. Those are the types of folks that are moving to the Charlotte metro area and looking for a place to live. Forbes magazine ranked the Charlotte metro area as the 8th best place for job growth in the nation. So that's a strong position to be in. And specifically in North Carolina, across the state, North Carolina added about 85,000. Was projected to add about 85,000 jobs this year. That's what's driving the population growth, and that's on par with what we saw last year in the state, where we added about 84,000 jobs. So that is projected to continue for some time. And boiling that down or bringing that closer to home, the Charlotte metro area, get this, and we've talked about this before, they added 43,000 of these 83,000 jobs. That is a tremendous percentage. It's in essence, 52% of all jobs created in North Carolina were in the Charlotte metro area. That's phenomenal. That's why we're seeing the growth that we're seeing, and more than likely we'll continue to see it. And in addition to that, the Raleigh-Durham metro area added the second highest number of 26,000. So they're also seeing strong growth. So 83% of the state's job creation took place last year in these 2 metro areas. That's great for Charlotte, great for Raleigh, not so great for the rest of the state. So the job creation has been extremely uneven. In fact, you're seeing population declines in many counties around the state. So we're in a good position to be in from a job creation perspective. So the issue is how are we going to accommodate the population growth that's going to come with that. Secondly, I want to look at the millennial generation. So as folks my age and older start to look to scale down, it's the millennials that are going to be coming behind us to buy our homes. And so the millennial generation is the 18 to 34-year-old category. And good for Charlotte. The Charlotte metro area, and this blew me away when I saw this, ranked number 1 in millennial growth over the past 10 years in the nation. The millennial population grew by 30% during that time. I had no idea that millennial growth in Charlotte was that strong. And to give you an idea how strong that actually is, Houston, Texas, and Austin, Texas were the next closest at 15 and 20% respectively. So the Charlotte metro area has seen strong growth in the millennial category. We've talked about not necessarily affordable housing, but housing that's affordable in Waxhaw. And the average home permitted last year was permitted at $425,000 in Waxhaw. I don't know that's a category that the millennials can afford, but when we look at trying to attract that demographic, that's something that we're going to have to address. Millennial home ownership, the millennials are buying homes, contrary to what some people think. Millennial home ownership in the Charlotte metro area grew by 45% during the last 10 years. So they are buying homes. Let's look at the schools. What's driving people to come to Union County? I know when I looked at Union County, I've got 3 kids. One of the things I looked at was the school system. Union County has a phenomenal school system. And the Charlotte Business Journal recently rated the top 50 public schools, and that would include charter schools, in the Charlotte metro area. And Union County was home to 4 of the top 10 public schools in the Charlotte region. That's another reason folks are coming to Waxhaw. And here are the schools in Union County that ranked in the top 50. And there are more than 50 high schools, they just ranked the top 50. So number 2 on the list out of the 50 was CATA in Monroe. It's not a surprise, it's a great school. Number 5 on the list in Union County was Union County Early College. And then you get into the traditional schools. Number 6 was Weddington. Number 10 was Cuthbertson. Number 11, Marvin Ridge. So look at, if I'm moving to the Charlotte metro area and I've got, kids, I'm looking at schools, public schools. I look at Union County and I see, there's in the Weddington, Waxhaw, and Marvin area, there's some of the top schools in the region. So that's a place that I'm going to look to locate my family. Number 20 on the list was Piedmont High School. Number 22, Union Academy. And number 45, Sun Valley. So this is just pointing to why folks are looking at particularly Western Union County as far as making their home. So that's just some food for thought with that. And I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Any questions for Manager Wood? Okay, thank you. We have no public hearings. Okay, next up, we have old business, and first up is a series of 3 topics on petitions requested by David Francis. There has been confusion out there. I just want to make sure that it's clear that for educational purposes, by law, when somebody submits an application, we have to evaluate it. And it goes through a process, and that process starts with a staff evaluation, goes to the planning board, goes to a public hearing, goes through 2 weeks of questions and answers being sought and digging by the town board, and then you get to the decision, deliberation and discussion and deliberation where we are tonight. I also want to say, on a personal note, thank you to the Inverness crew. They came here 2 weeks ago and said, we're not sure of the process, but here's our concerns, and would you educate us on the process? And they spent 90 minutes trying to understand the process and trying to make sure that they were applying themselves to the process. And boy, I'll tell you, it's great to see that kind of involvement from a community and from a set of citizens that want to get involved to that level, to understand it, respect everything in a respectful way, but still voice their issues and their concerns, and they have many, as we've heard tonight. And so thank you to the Inverness subdivision for taking the time to get that involved. And so with that, first one up is action on David Francis voluntary annexation petition 18-218. The background, it's a request by Mr. Francis on behalf of David L. Francis Limited Partnership for annexation of approximately 10 acres consisting of parcel 06162014, located on South Providence Road. We have been through the public hearing. We have been through all the documentation. Do you have anything you wish to add, Chris?
No, I don't. I'm here to answer any questions you might have.
Okay. With that, any thoughts, comments, questions, motions?
In regard to this item here, I mean, we're glad to have more property in the town. I mean, in my opinion, yes.
So are you making a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve the annexation.
So your motion is to adopt the ordinance extending the corporate limits of the town as described in the proposed annexation ordinance 201-6018?
Correct.
Okay. Any further discussion on that, with that motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
None opposed? So the annexation passes 5-0. Since we annexed 10 acres, it will need zoning within 60 days. So I will entertain a motion to instruct staff to submit a zoning petition for partial 06162014 on or before January 20th. Yes, sir.
There's, that property is included with the other petition. It's part of it. So depending on your action with it, you may or not need that separate motion. So
Do you want me to hold that?
you can hold that, but it is to let you and the public know that once you annex, you have 60 days. It can either be done now with the petition or through staff bringing that, but you definitely want to get some zoning within the 60-day parameters or there's no zoning on it. So I would hold it, and there's been no motion.
So hold the motion?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Item 2, action on David Francis text amendment petition TA 004965-2016. It's a request by David L. Francis Limited Partnership to amend section 11.3.74.c.4 of the Unified Development Ordinance to change the maximum density in multifamily developments in the RM1 and RM2 zoning districts from 8 units an acre to 16 units an acre. Again, Mr. Reich, do you have any additional information since we've been through your presentations and the public hearing and the like?
No, sir, but I'm here to answer any questions you may have.
Okay. Any questions, thoughts, discussions, motions?
I'd like to make a motion. I'd like to make the motion to disapprove this. No, please. This does not warrant clapping. This is a long process. It's not I'm glad you all came, but it takes a lot of thought. And my comments earlier about the UDO, we're not going to do things we're close to having our UDO. That's what we're waiting for. That's what I'm waiting for. But I'd like to make the motion to disapprove petition TA 004965.
So we have a motion to disapprove or deny the petition. Any further discussion?
Yeah, I think, Mr. Burrell and I discussed this earlier, that this is probably not the appropriate time to do this zoning. Seeing as we're getting a new UDO, it would be recommended that we probably have a tiered type system for multifamily that would be inserted in the new UDO so that when this comes up, this will happen.
Any further discussion? If not, I'll entertain I'll take a vote on the motion to deny the petition. All those in favor of denying the petition, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. The ayes have it. In addition to that, I will entertain a motion to adopt the following statement from Mr. Burrell, that the request is consistent with the comprehensive plan and proposed amendments, but the denial is reasonable and in the public interest because the request does not differentiate between RM1 and RM2 zoning districts or set forth any protections to mitigate against multifamily, and this issue should be globally addressed with the current rewrite to the UDO. So moved?
So moved.
So we have that motion on reasonableness and consistency. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it, 5-0. Next up, annexation, action, on the David Francis rezoning petition RZ-004966-2016. Again, a request by David L. Francis Limited Partnership for a general use rezoning map amendment from County R40 Single Family CUC3 Conditional Use General Commercial and CURM1 to C3 General Commercial and RM1 Multifamily Residential on approximately 45.2 acres as described in the tax IDs in the packet, and it's located on the east side of Highway 16 and across from the intersection of Gray Byram Road. I'll go through the same thing with you, Mr. Rice. We've been through the presentations and discussions in the public hearings. Do you have anything else, addition that you want to add, or?
No, but again, I'm here to answer any questions you may have.
Okay. Given that there's nothing else to add, I will entertain thoughts, questions, motions.
I like to make the motion to deny due to our UDO is not in the place where it should be to prevent, it's preventing the public to have a say on what they want the property to look like.
Okay, we have a motion to deny the petition TA-004966-2016. I'll come back to the reasonableness and consistency statement in a second. Any further discussion with the motion?
Yeah, I'd like to make a statement. It's all been alluded to. There's a lot of factors in what is going on here, roads and this and that. I says, without conditions upon this, I don't think that we can make a decision. I mean, there needs to be right-of-ways and a lot of other things going in here. And to have Mr. Francis control it all, I think that's not appropriate at this time.
Any further discussion? If not, I'll take a vote on the motion to deny the said petition. All those in favor of denying the petition signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We have it 5-0 to deny. And I'm assuming, Commissioner Fitzgerald, you're okay with the following consistency and reasonableness statement, that the request is consistent with the comprehensive plan and proposed amendments, but the denial is reasonable in the public interest because the request would eliminate the existing protection allowing conditions to be placed on the property, which is important for such a large development, and the town has not completed the rewrite to the UDO.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we have the reasonableness and consistency statement. Motion? Any further discussion? All those in favor with that statement signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it, 5-0. So, thank you. Chaplain, coming back to the 10 acres, do we need to do anything at this point in time?
Yes, there was a zoning application. It was included with that. You do want to get zoning within 60 days, so I would have one of you just make a motion to instruct staff to bring one.
So, just repeat what we said earlier, that, where did I put it? That, you would have let me do it earlier, just. I will, since we annexed the acres, I will entertain a motion to instruct staff to submit a zoning petition for parcel 06162014 on or before January 20th. Do I have a motion?
So vote.
Okay. We have the motion to instruct staff. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it, 5-0. Okay, next up is the action on Queen City Land rezoning petition CD 004774-2016. And before we entertain any motions or discussions, Chaplain, I'd asked you to look at the question about age appropriateness versus age specific that was raised by Commissioner Stewart. So could you explain that to us?
Yes, age appropriateness is really through marketing and design. You're targeting a certain age group, but there aren't any restrictions in the covenants or the zoning. It's not uncommon that neighborhoods will go after a certain age group and usually obtain that through the marketing and design. Age restriction is a little bit different, and that's where you have covenants or restrictions that are placed on the property and run with the land. Under the Fair Housing Act, you can have two subsections of that. If it's geared towards 55 and older, you can have it with 80% of the households must have at least one person that is 55. If you go to 62 and older, you can restrict the whole thing, 100% 62 and older. What you have here before you is age appropriate, unless y'all were to try to seek conditions. So they will be marketing and trying to, through their design, get people 55 and older, I think, which would probably be similar to the 80% or higher percentages that you look at under the Fair Housing Act. But if you go any higher than those numbers and percentages, you could have potential pitfalls with the federal law.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. That applies to both of these.
Yes, it's really on the zoning. The subdivision plan will follow the zoning and be similar, but that's more of the layout. And this will probably be a one-step process in 4 or 5 months, because the subdivision plan that you're going to be looking at, it's the same in the petition. We just have a 2-step process right now.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions for Chaplain on that? Okay, so we have in front of us the next item of the action on the Queen City Land rezoning. It's a request by Queen City Land LLC for conditional rezoning / map amendment from R4 to CDR4 PRD, a conditional district, single-family residential plan, residential development on approximately 15.55 acres. Tax IDs are in the packet, located on Waxhaw Marvin Road. A single-family residential development is proposed for the site. Max, much like Chris, we've had the public hearings, we've been through the presentations, et cetera. Do you have anything additional you wanted to bring to the board?
I have nothing else to add. I just wanted to remind everyone that they have requested to reduce the setbacks, and so I'd like that to be, or I'm sure they would like that to be included as well.
Okay. Discussion, comments, recommendations, motions? Yes, sir.
Now it's on. I asked last meeting if they would be acceptable to have restrictions on their deeds of 55 and older, and I asked that to the applicant. I just wanted to know if they would have an answer for that at this point.
I'm Carl Folko with Queen City Land. I humbly ask that we don't do that. It's going to be a small 48-lot community. We've done a number of these. Because you saw the product, it's going to lend to that. All our advertising is geared to that. And I just don't feel that that's necessary. It kind of pigeonholes us a little bit. I'm open to it if it was a deal breaker for you, but I've done a number of these, and kind of like the Epcon product. You can go through all the different Epcon products. You add 2 to 3 kids per 100 houses in the school, and the facts are the people that are younger, the millennials we talk about, they don't want to be anywhere near us 55 and older folks and that type of thing. So I don't think it'll make much of a difference.
Hey, come on.
Hey, I'm with you. Trust me. Nice. I'm trusting you. And we have not had that problem, so I understand the concern. I've gone through this with many places, and because the way we advertise and the people we bring in are exactly what the towns want, because they're spending the money and they're doing that thing. And I can assure you, everyone's going to be 55 or older. I just don't want the additional headache if I don't need to.
Other questions, discussion?
Yeah, I have a couple. Well, first of all, I guess the biggest item on this one is the reduction of the setback. I guess, first of all, that's max. I mean, I see a tree planting there, and it looks like it's pretty much the 30-foot is covered with trees mostly, except there's some big gaps. I mean, how, and we had one of the, Prescott's homeowners at the last meeting. How are you planning on screening them? I mean, do we have restrictions on the full cover, or, I mean, how are we going to screen it?
The setbacks would not affect the.
Can I ask a clarification question? Conditions on this, on the map, or on the next one?
This one, because this is a
All right,
conditional
just wanted to-
zoning.
I wanted to clarify.
And they should follow and be consistent with the subdivision plat, but if you get them on this one, they're going to have to.
I just wanted that clarification for everybody. Thank you. Go ahead, Max.
The setbacks will not affect the tree save requirements. It'll still require a 30-foot buffer, and it won't affect the size of the lots either. It's more about house placement and how much room they have to work with in their building area.
Comment too. The reason we asked for the reduction was because we did a bigger planting strip, adding more trees, and we want to be good neighbors. I live in Waxhaw for the last 20 years. If there's some bare spots and they want to come up to us, I'm not opposed to putting in a few extra trees. That's understandable. I don't want to, they won't want to be looking at our folks any more than they want to be looking at them, so I'll be happy to put in some if there's a bare spot anywhere. But if you walk the property, that whole back part, the reason we're doing it the way we are is because it's natural back there anyway. There's a little creek back there and stuff, but we're open to do anything to help them out.
Yeah, and just to follow up on that, Commissioner Warner, you did go out and do a neighborhood meeting, and there were several residents from Prescott there. The very specific issue that was brought up at the public hearing was the location that looks down on Exbury, down the hill, and that's why they were looking for some extra screening, whatever, because of looking straight down the hill.
Correct.
Into their back bedrooms, if you will.
Yeah, I stay up at night looking at that topo back there.
Yeah.
Because we're bringing in a lot of dirt and moving a lot of things. So when it all settles out, we will have a nice screen for their protection as well as ours.
That's where I see it. There's a large, in that one little corner there, there's a steep grade going down there.
Yeah, we'll be bringing in a
That's
lot of dirt. Trust me,
Okay.
that's going to be expensive.
But there'll probably be sacrificing some trees. I mean, where you do sacrifice a tree, you have to replace it with another one of a 4-inch caliber.
We
or
do,
something.
and we have a 30-foot buffer back there, so we won't be getting into disturbing the stuff back there in the buffer. We'll leave that natural, so.
There's some big ones. I mean, I saw
yeah,
some
believe me, we
12
had
and 18 inchers or something
There,
like
there's
that.
some even bigger than that we will leave undisturbed.
Okay.
Any other questions? Commissioner Burrow?
The thing that occurs to me, it's always nice to have somebody say they promise to do something, but as a condition, can we require that, say for instance, our zoning administrator be the deciding person as to whether a buffer is sufficient or the screen is sufficient? Put that as a condition on this approval.
Absolutely.
Yes, as long as it's mutually agreed upon.
Right.
We can provide a landscaping exhibit for you, and we'd like to be part of that as well if it got to that point where it's, as long as it's reasonable, we are
Right.
absolutely fine with that.
Okay, yeah.
So that's a condition to put on it. Any other questions, comments, concerns, motions?
I have a question.
Commissioner Stewart?
In your other developments that you've done that are similar to these, has there ever been a flip as far as seniors not wanting to buy versus younger families with children,
No, and
school-age children?
No, and to be fair, I haven't done it that it's not have that track record because it's, the age restricted is relatively new. But we've worked hand in hand a lot with the EPCON folks who have been doing it forever. And it's kind of self-fulfilling. Once you start down that road, it perpetuates everybody. That type of buyer continues to bring in their friends and it keeps going. So the answer to that, no, we've never had to go back. They've never had to go back, and they've done this across the country.
Any other questions, concerns, motions?
I'd like to make a motion. In front of me. I'd like to make a motion that we approve the request by Queen City Landing LLC for a conditional,
You're approving that with the condition.
to approve, yeah, with the two conditions listed, to approve petition CD 004774-2016, in that the zoning petition is consistent with the comprehensive plan and future planning goals of the town of Waxhaw. It is reasonable and in the public interest as it will allow for a 48 lot planned residential development that will provide an urban scale density that is in contrast to the typical suburban development regulations that have been applied by Union County and neighboring communities as recommended by the Waxhaw Comprehensive Plan for the G3 intended growth sector.
Chaplain?
I was just going to say, the two conditions are the reduced setbacks as requested, and that the zoning administrator will have reasonable approval of the trees for buffering.
Yes, sir.
Is that-
Can that be a little more positive? In other words, I would like to see the zoning administrator control it. The real thing we're trying to accomplish is a screening.
Okay, the zoning administrator,
Be the final arbiter.
well, if they must approve it,
I know.
yeah, because they won't approve it if they don't, well, we can,
It's really on that one section. We will work with her however she wants. I mean, it's gonna be reasonable, and there's a lot of trees out that way anyway. So, I don't know how you word that, but we're on the same page with you.
Is there anything like a 60% screening or something? Max, you know more about that than we do.
The 30-foot tree shade buffer must remain undisturbed, and it requires a minimum of one tree per every 2,500 square feet. So that's the minimum. And if you want to add conditions for anything above that,
I mean, we're looking for bushes, not trees, though, I think, right? We're not landscape specialists, so.
I mean, right now, they would submit and work with the planner, and it gives them a little bit more flexibility, but the planner does have the approval, and if they don't like it, they don't approve. They have to be reasonable, so they can't. I think that's a good balance.
You're in agreement with that?
I am.
Yep, okay, so we have both sides agreed to both conditions. So we have a motion on the table and the reasonableness and consistency statement,
It's already been done.
all in one with the two conditions as verbalized. Any further discussion? I'll entertain the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passed 4-1. Okay. Last but not least, action on Queen City Land Subdivision Petition SUB 005-022-2016. The request for a single-family major subdivision on approximately 15.55 acres. Parcels identified located on Waxhaw Marvin. The development is proposed to contain 48 lots. We've been through the presentation, we've been through the questions, we've been through the public hearing. Max, do you have anything else that you would like to add?
I have nothing else to add except that the setbacks will follow what was approved with the conditional district rezoning.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion by the board? Comments, motions?
I'd like to make a motion to approve along with the conditions that were on the previous vote.
Okay, we have a motion to approve petition SUB 005-022-2016 based upon the current zoning of the site and surrounding developments. Any further discussion? If not, I'll entertain a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passed 4-1. Okay, we have no new business. We have no closed session. So at this point in time, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye.